Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to this special Building Relationships Using LinkedIn workshop. This is a free webinar hosted by Umbrex and Digimentors. We are delighted to have you here with us today. Please share this with your friends and family and colleagues and enemies. We'd love all of them to watch live or later. Today, we are talking about how to get advanced tips that will help you be better on LinkedIn. We're going to tell you how to optimize your profile, how to engage one-on-one, make connection requests that work. We'll also tell you about the problematic ones. We'll show you how to start a conversation. We'll talk about shifting to a live conversation and your content strategy, posting articles, commenting, etc. Lots going on today. We're thrilled to have you all with us live or watching later. Our guests today are Will Bachman. His LinkedIn profile says, "What 3 words best capture what motivates you?" His are curiosity, collaboration, and community. He's on Twitter at Will Bachman. Please follow him. We're also joined by Dorie Clark at Dorie Clark. Please follow her. Her LinkedIn says, Duke and Columbia Business Prof, ranked #1 communication coach, HBR author, top 50 business thinker in the world, Thinkers 50. Please follow at Dorie Clark. And I am Sreenivasan. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook, and I run DIGIMENTORS, a social, digital, and virtual events consulting company. With that, we are almost ready to get started. We want to make sure that you have shared this and tagged your friends with this. And let's get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Sree. That's Will. Dorie. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? My first question always is, how are you? How's the family coping through everything we're going here? Dorie, over to you.
Staying safe and things are good, Sree. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
And thank you for giving us your time today. And let's go to Will. Same question.
Sree, thanks for asking. We're doing well here. We're all safe, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you today. Real honor.
So let's tell them a little bit about Umbrex and Digimentor. So we'll have you go first.
Sure. So Umbrex, we're a global community that connects top-tier independent management consultants with one another. So I started Umbrex. It started after I left McKinsey and started my own consulting practice. Read a book by Seth Godin called Tribes that talks about building your tribe. And I said, well, okay, I should start doing that because I knew how to run a consulting practice, but I needed help on how do you get health insurance, how do you write statement of work. So we connect independent consultants with one another, and we connect clients to the right independent consultant for their projects.
It's awesome. UMBREX, everyone, please check out Umbrex. And Will is an amazing creator of content as well, as you will learn. And Digimentors is a social, digital, and virtual events consulting business. We were not in virtual events. We used to do regular events, and we have been forced by the pandemic to think in a new way, and LinkedIn is a big part of what we do. And so hope you all check out digimentors.group. And we're also on LinkedIn, DigiMentors, and that's because we believe everyone needs a digital mentor. So enough of the ad, and let's talk to Dorie. Dorie, tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sree. So in terms of the work that I do, for the past decade, I have focused my research really around the question of, in a noisy and competitive marketplace, an environment where there seems to be just so much static, how can individuals and how can companies get their best ideas heard? And of course, social media and the digital world has become an increasingly prominent part of that. So the real question is, how do you stand out? How do you make sure that when so many people naturally have the impulse to say, "Oh, no more! I can't listen to one more thing. I can't pay attention." How do we make sure that your company is the exception and that your voice actually can break through?
That's fantastic, and I know we all need that help. We should also point out that Dorie has the best background. Look at that. It's all set up so beautifully there. I need to work on my background compared to that. So before I hand it over to Will, who's going to lead us through a lot of this, I wanted to show everyone a graphic here that you're seeing that puts the range of social media platforms in context. This is called the Muckrack Buzzin' Dozen, and is part of a project that I work on with Muckrack. And we have a free social media workshop that you can sign up for at Muckrack. But here you're looking at where Facebook is, where YouTube is, et cetera. And then look all the way down, you see Twitter, and you see Twitter really punches above its weight because of all the noise it makes. Lost in this mix often is LinkedIn. And look at that number. So I'm going to ask Dorie and Will to kind of reflect on this chart and LinkedIn's role in the world and in their own lives. So let's start with Dorie.
Yeah, absolutely, Sree. So when it comes to LinkedIn, obviously it is not numerically the most prominent platform. You know, Facebook is crushing it in that regard. But what is so distinctive and I think so important about LinkedIn is the quality of the people that are on it. It is the pretty much only place that professionals are gathering en masse, and has become really so much more than where it started, which was kind of a virtual resume. It's now a place where people are connecting, they're building relationships, they're getting jobs, and they're really building their brand in the sense of conveying a steady stream of information so that they stay on people's radars, so that people know who they are. So depending on the work that you do, I mean, if you're trying to reach a mass market audience, Facebook is probably the best bet. If you're trying to reach a youth audience, TikTok or maybe Instagram is the place to be. But if you are a professional yourself or you're working in the professional realm, LinkedIn is the most high value place that you can possibly be and possibly be creating content.
Thank you. Will, your thoughts?
Yeah, so first I want to say for everyone listening, throw a comment down of where you are listening from. It'd be great to see some comments. Love to see where people are sitting today and listening to us. Also, if you have questions about LinkedIn and how to use it, start adding them to the comments so we can be working to answer those. In terms of LinkedIn, I would say more than half of my close friends today I've met on LinkedIn over the last 10 years. So, you know, we often hear that if you want to improve, you know, you're going to become like the people that you surround yourself with. And LinkedIn is a great way to not just look for a job, but really to build long-term relationships. So for anyone who's, you know, thinking about long-term building their professional career, you know, LinkedIn is definitely the place to be. And today we're going to talk a bit about some tips around how to get better use out of this amazing tool.
And that's so cool that we're going to be able to do that. And we want as many people to benefit from this as possible. People are asking about the cat. So let's get the cat an introduction too. And does the cat have a LinkedIn page?
Unfortunately, he doesn't, but only because he does not have opposable thumbs. But his name is Heath. He is available for endorsement deals. He's a little more shy than his brother, so it's actually special that he made the photo bomb this time around. He has pretty high rates, but his brother Philip is also open for cat food endorsement deals, and they're ready to go.
I do want to say that how much the corporate things have changed in the last 4 months. Do you remember when that BBC interview of the kid who came in and that was like, oh my God, what a kerfuffle that was. And now if you don't have cats or dogs or kids come in, it feels like we've lost a little opportunity to connect with the person on the other side of the camera. And that happened in 4 months like that, or even faster than that. And that's something that is worth remarking upon. So before we hand it over to Will, just our reminder to everyone, we'd love to hear from you. Please post where you're watching from in the comments. And also if you have any questions, the three of us will get to them in a little bit. We are just thrilled to have you all here. And please do connect with us on LinkedIn as well, of course. And Twitter, @Dorie Clark, @Will Bachman, and @Sree, that's me. Over to you, Will.
Okay, great. So, and it's awesome to see all of the comments of where people are joining us from. That's if you're just joining, please comment where you're sitting today. So we're going to do 3 things. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about just optimizing your profile, because before you start engaging with other people, you want to have a profile that people are going to look at and want to engage with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then Dorie and Sree will add their thoughts on what I missed. Then Dorie is going to talk about how to engage one-on-one on LinkedIn, some tips around how to send connection requests that work, and some types of connection requests that to avoid, how to shift to a live conversation once you've connected with someone. And then Sree and I will react to that. And Sree's then going to talk about your LinkedIn content strategy. So commenting on other posts and what to post yourself, posting as well as articles and the difference between those, and comments. And then we're going to, along the way, we'll be watching your comments and questions and looking to answer those. So I'll start with talking about your LinkedIn profile. Now, Stefan, if you could post in the comment section, we're going to include a Dropbox link to a short document I put together on LinkedIn best practices for your profile. So it's a more expanded version of what I'm going to say right now. It's abbreviated. But let's start at just the top of the profile. I'm going to go over some of the key points. Number one, the most important is your profile photo. So that is kind of like your interview suit today. So if, sometimes you'll see someone on a hiking trip, and that's great that you like to hike or that you like to bike or you like the outdoors, or it'll show kind of a wedding photo with someone cut off, right? But the best photo is close up of your face, probably with a plain background. You don't have to be wearing a suit, but dressed as you would professionally. So if you're in Silicon Valley and you normally wear a polo shirt, then that's fine. But how you dress professionally, plain background, people can see your face nice and close up, not kind of a full body shot. So that's the first thing people are going to see. That's number one. And number two is thinking about the banner photo. That's that one that you see that's horizontal. A lot of people just don't even realize that they can update that, and they stick with the default kind of blue, default. But pick some kind of photo that captures interest. And there's no easy formula for this, but it could somewhat suggest the industry that you're in. So if you're in the electricity business, maybe you show some transmission lines in the distance, a beautiful photo of that. So think about something that represents what you do as that banner photo. Number three, the headline. So this is the most important text of your whole profile. When someone does a search on LinkedIn, this is what's going to appear. When you comment on someone else's post, your name and your headline appears. So I see a lot of, for example, independent professionals that will just say independent consultant, full stop, or management consultant, full stop. And that's kind of like getting a book at the library that just says nonfiction book or novel on the cover. It doesn't really draw you in. So the next level up from that is, rather than just saying who you are, saying what you do and who you serve. So, I help vice presidents of procurement, save 50% on their office supplies expense, or whatever it is that you do. Another approach is one that I adopted a few months ago, and that it was sort of playful. Sree mentioned it in the comments. My headline now says, what 3 words best describe what motivates you? Mine are curiosity, collaboration, and community. So that headline actually engages conversation, and I regularly receive comments on that, people responding what their 3 words are, and that's a nice way to start conversation. So that's a little bit more playful. But get a headline that captures in a phrase what you're passionate about or what it is you do, and not just your title, because people will see your title in the email. Next thing is your about section. So some folks will write it in the third person or first person and just make it a laundry list of their accomplishments or the story of their resume. We have that down below. The about section is a chance to tell a story about yourself. So, I open mine with this crazy thing about how my whole career was shaped by one TV episode of The Paper Chase, and perhaps that draws people in. people are only going to see the first 3 lines of your about section unless they click see more. So try to write something that is a bit more of a story, a situation, something that shaped you, something that's been important to you. Draw us in and make it personal and make us interested in what you do. So that's the about section. And then in the experience section, some people will just list their title and the employer and nothing else. And that's not that great. We want to see something, what you did there. Some people will list just the responsibilities, but that's really a missed opportunity. If you're just listing your responsibility, let's say that you were, vice president of sales at a company, and you say, well, I was responsible for, hiring salespeople and training salespeople and managing them to metrics. We already know that from your title, right? We already know that from your title. Instead, take the opportunity to tell a story in your section there. What was the situation? What did you do, and what was the impact in your experience section? And then further down below in your education section, rather than just saying what your degree was, take the time to say, if you got a PhD, well, what was your PhD on? Or a master's degree, what was your thesis on? If you were in college, what did you do in school? What were your activities? So take some time to expand on just the basics and tell us what you did. Finally,
can I just point out nuclear power school? Like that's got to be one of the more amazing descriptions I've seen on any education. And he also graduated top of the class of 100 officers. So that's mic drop right there.
You're very kind, Sree. If we go back up to the contact section, that's an important one that some people don't take advantage of. So in the contact section, the minimum there is going to be your phone, your email address, and your link to your LinkedIn profile. But you can also put your phone number. You can also put your email address, and you can put your websites. And your Twitter address, which looks like I need to add to mine. So something that a lot of people should do, if you do have your own firm or if the company you're working at, you can put the website there in your contact section. So now that's something a lot of people miss. So Sree, those are the top tips I have on profiles.
That's great. I'm taking notes because a lot of things that I haven't done yet, including connecting my company a lot better onto mine. So I'm going to do that. Thank you for the reminder on that. I think a lot of these, as you hear them, you may say, oh, of course I've done that. But you've got to go in and check and continue to optimize your post. That's one of the things that I don't think any of us do enough of. Keep working on optimizing as much as possible. Dorie, any reflection on what you saw Will do just now?
Yeah, I think you raised some great points, Will. And in fact, one of the courses that I teach at Duke is called Communication for Leaders. And we actually have a section of the course that is about LinkedIn profiles and how to optimize them, how to make sure you're presenting yourself effectively. So your recommendations are spot on. Building on that, I would say one thing that we always try to leave people with is to actually get them to put a date in their calendar that, the next day or the next week, they block out, let's say 60 minutes, just an hour, to update your LinkedIn profile. You certainly do not have to do this all the time. It's not like, oh, every week I have to tweak my LinkedIn profile. But the problem is, I teach executive ed, and there are professionals that I have in the course that they've gone 7 years without updating their LinkedIn profile. They just don't think about it. It's like, set it and forget it, which is not a good strategy. So if you can put an hour into your schedule twice a year, just, put it in the calendar and spend it just updating. Oh, you got a promotion. Oh, you had a new win. Put it in there. It will keep it fresh and make sure it's representing you in the most accurate way possible.
Yeah.
One of the things I tell people is that, it should represent your best current you. And that means making sure that everything from the photography and all those tips that you just got from Will, make sure you're updating, because you may think everybody knows all the changes that have happened with you, but that's unlikely that everybody knows. So that's a good opportunity. Well,
yeah, that's right. And again, we'll put that link in the comments there. You can download, it's a 5 or 6 page checklist on your profile. Another tip is, if you have left a job, then close it out, right? Sometimes you'll see people with 2 or 3 things, and they worked at IBM from 2016 through the present, and they worked somewhere else from 2018 to the present. Just very confusing for somebody who's checking out your profile, and it just throws people off a little bit. So close out jobs that you've left. And something that some people do is every single little project or board that they're on, they'll list all those out in experiences. That's something to be a bit wary of, because when people see your profile, they're only going to see like 5 experiences at a time. Then they have to click see more and see more. So some people, if they've been on a bunch of boards and a bunch of projects, and they've listed each one individually, you have to click see more a lot of times to get down to the longer job experiences they have. So you can consider bundling those instead of listing each one individually. And finally, if you do have your own company, or if you're part of a small company, be sure to link up your profile to that company. And if your company doesn't have its own company page, create a company page. It's very easy, takes 2 minutes. Just Google like how to create a company page on LinkedIn. And that way, otherwise people, if they click on your company, they'll just go to a search of that term as opposed to going your company page. It's not as good of experience. So let's turn now to Dorie. Dorie, how should people send connection requests? What are some connection requests not to send? And how to engage people one-on-one on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely, Will. Thanks so much. So one basic starting point when it comes to sending connection requests on LinkedIn and actually reaching out to folks is, again, pretty basic, but important to mention. The default on LinkedIn is to send the connection request, and it is not accompanied by a message. It is almost always, unless you know the person really well, and it's like shocking that you're not already connected to them, it is a good idea to send a message with it, and to make a point of doing so, because that person may not remember who you are, or also they may, especially if you haven't connected with them, if they don't know you at all, they're not really sure why you're connecting. And so you want to have some kind of explanation. So on the desktop version of LinkedIn, you click, yes, I'd like to connect with this person, and then be sure to follow up with a message. I can't even tell you the number of times I have had people send a connection request, and I've looked at it and said, well, who is this person? What do they want? I don't know them. And then, sometimes I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I'll connect. And then immediately after that, they follow up with a message. Oh, well, we want to bring you in to speak, or we want you to do X, Y, and Z. And it would have been really helpful if they had mentioned that up front, because it would have given me the context, because I just as easily might not have accepted the request if I didn't know who that person was. I'll also mention, by the way, just for anybody that wants to connect on LinkedIn, hey, I would love to connect with you in some fashion. However, believe it or not, bizarrely, there's actually a limit on the number of people you can connect with on LinkedIn, and I am now at that limit. So unfortunately, it will just need to be following rather than connecting. But I would love to connect with you by following. So that's number one. Number two is, of course, what do you say in the message? How do you write that? And it is really useful to make sure that you are using social proof in your messaging. Now, social proof, you may be familiar with this. This is a term that's used oftentimes in psychology, but it basically refers to, what is your credibility? Why should the other person take you seriously? Why should they listen? And so there's a couple of reasons for, if you're asking to connect with someone online or on LinkedIn to be able to get social proof. One is the social proof of mutual connections. So if you're really good friends with someone they know, you can say, oh, Dorie, I have been a friend of your friend Barbara's for 10 years. Barbara says amazing things about you and, suggested that we connect. We have a lot in common. I'd love to connect here on LinkedIn. Okay, fantastic. That gives a reason. I know Barbara, I trust her judgment, and so therefore I will say yes to this person. That's great. You may, however, not have any connections to the person. How do you break through and get them to take you seriously, or to, in fact, even be eager to connect with you? So this is where other forms of social proof come in. The way that I like to think about it is that social proof is the way in a very loud, noisy world that you can break through and make it easy for the other person to say yes to you. And the way that they do that, it is super hard for people cognitively to take the energy and attention of actually looking up a person that they have, they have no idea, they've never heard of you, to actually take the time to go onto your profile. Oh, who is this? Why are they worth connecting with? So what you want to do is to take any brand name that you have access to and leverage it. Because what that enables is for the other person to relax and say, oh, thank goodness, I don't really, this is right, for better or for worse, right? I don't really have to think about it anymore because this person has been pre-vetted. Someone else has vetted them and said that they're okay. And so therefore I can relax my guard and say, sure, I'll get to know this person. I can give you an example. There was a person earlier this week that I wrote a fan letter to. I read an essay by this guy. I had been reading, as it turns out, this guy's essays for a number of years. And I was moved at the time by reading this particularly good essay to say, you know what? I want to get to know this guy. And so I reached out to him, and he's a Columbia professor. And I liked his work. And so I wrote him a note, and I basically said, oh, hey, you don't know me, but I really like your work. I especially like this essay that you just did. And, I also teach for Duke and for Columbia. I mean, Columbia is a big place, so you don't necessarily know everybody that teaches there. And, here's a link to my bio so you can find out a little bit more about me. And then I invited him to join a virtual gathering that I was going to be doing. But it was really important to me because I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that write to him to establish my bona fides so that he didn't think, oh, who is this rando, and just delete it. I wanted him to be able to pay attention. And so the shared connection, or even if he didn't also teach at Columbia, just the fact that I'm able to sort of say, oh, look, this credible institution, that is something that can help you get noticed. And the last piece that I will mention, oh, and I just see a comment popped up. Somebody likes my microphone. Thank you so much. I'm glad you do. I am using an AT, that stands for Audio Technica, AT 2020 USB Plus. That is what I am using for audio. So glad you enjoy it. The last thing that I will say before handing it back over to Sree and to Will, when it comes to the question of, how do you reach out? Let's say you have to ask somebody, or you want to ask somebody for a favor. How do you do that? Well, I have been saving up for you guys because I got a nice request that I actually thought was surprisingly well done earlier this week from someone, and I wanted to read it to you, or at least read a little excerpt to you, so that you can hear for yourself this particular message. So this is somebody I know a little bit. Never hung out with this person one-on-one, but we have a little bit of connection. I think we've had like a Zoom call or a Skype call like maybe once, right? So, hi Dorie, hope this finds you safe and healthy in the current situation. I've been enjoying your talks in your new LinkedIn newsletter, and thanks for sharing my recent article on your social media. So, okay, this person is establishing here that they are they are basically saying that they're paying attention to what I'm doing, right? They know that I have a new LinkedIn newsletter. So that's nice. Okay. So I'm writing to ask a specific favor if you're open to it. This is also good because sometimes people do really weird things. They will often try to kind of trick you. They'll be like, oh, hey, let's catch up. And then they don't really want to catch up. They really want to just ask you for something. So she's being straight up, which I really appreciate. She says, I'm writing to ask a specific favor if you're open to it. Whenever I've written for a major publication, HBR, Forbes, Inc., those have been by way of a warm introduction. Oh, look at what she's doing. She is telling me, don't worry, Dorie. I know how to write for major publications. Don't think I'm an amateur here, okay? And then she says, I'd like to pitch a few ideas to so-and-so, who's an editor that I know. And she says, as I was getting ready to cold pitch him, it looked like you're connected to him on LinkedIn. Would you be open to making an introduction? If so, I have the email and the pitch ready to go. However, if for any reason that's not feasible for you at the moment, no worries. but figured I'd ask just in case. So look at that. So she has observed that I'm connected on LinkedIn. She's given me an out if for some reason I say, oh, actually, I don't know him that well, or it's not a good time, like very low pressure. So she is making it as easy as possible for me to do her a favor, because she's basically said, don't worry, I won't embarrass you because I've published in other high quality publications before. I have the email all ready to go, so it's not going to be any work for you, and it's okay if you can't do it. That makes it very, very easy to say yes. And so, in fact, I did say yes to this woman. So those are some useful principles to think about when you're actually asking somebody for a favor online. So with that, I'll tee it back to my colleagues.
Well, that is an amazing reach out. Boy, that is definitely best in class story. I like what you were saying about having a reason to reach out. So at least myself, I don't like getting just random connection requests that says, hey, we have some mutual connections, let's connect, and would you, or would like to get on the phone. Like, no, I don't want to get on the phone. I have a busy day. So think about having a reason to reach out to people, right? So one would be, if you have some kind of platform yourself, if you have a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, if you have a blog where you interview people, then you're giving a reason for them to spend some time with you. Like, oh, how'd you like to be a guest on my podcast? Would you like to be a guest on my YouTube channel? I'd love to interview you for my blog. Great, then they're getting something out of it as well. You're helping to use your platform to help people become more aware of them. Another way is actually asking for advice, like in Dorie's example. Personally, it's somewhat counterintuitive, but I'm actually much more likely to get on the phone with someone if they're asking for my advice than if they're like saying, Will, I'd like to give you advice. Well, no, I don't want advice, but I'm happy to, be asked for advice. So you might ask for people advice. Maybe it's someone you graduated from a college, you ask someone who graduated from that same college who's in your industry. Hey, I'd love to hear about your journey, hear about your specific advice on how to get into this field. If you have a specific advice and it's very time bound, I have a 10-minute call. Those are some ways, gives you a reason to reach out to people. Sree, additional thoughts on Dorie's point?
First, I want to say you both are much more generous than me. I don't want to be suddenly all of us being flooded with advice questions. I don't think we have time for that, but I appreciate the spirit with which these generous, kind souls, my fellow panelists, how they're coming to you. So I will say that both of you shared such good ideas on how to connect and where to make those connections and where to share about yourself, right? But one of the things that I also encourage everybody to do is, before you write that connection request, follow people, because that allows you can only connect with Dorie when you have to follow. But the other thing you can also do is connect with them, reshare one of their posts, like or celebrate. They have all these different emojis and things, reactions you can do, so that the first time someone like Dorie hears about you is not an ask. I like to tell people, don't be an ask on social media. There was a K in there that sometimes people don't hear. In fact, in Germany at a workshop, somebody tweeted, Sree says, don't be an ass on social media. It's true. Do not be an ass, but that's not what I said. I said, don't be an ask on social media. Make the first time I hear from you be something where I'm thinking, oh, wow, I've never heard of this person, but he's sharing my content, he's liking my stuff, he's commenting. Participate, right? And then after a couple of weeks or a few days, I see you ask a question, then I remember you as someone who's not asking. Someone like Dorie, someone like Will, they get so many requests that it becomes very hard for them to keep track of all of them. But when they see your nice, like there's a harmless or really positive interaction, they'll remember that. And that's what I call a kind of low touch, low volume way of low temperature way of connecting with people. I'd also say that I've hit that limit on the 30,000 as well. So I've been doing that on Facebook. You have that limit of 5,000. And so I encourage people to follow, but also there are people I want to connect with. So I have to go in and do what I used to call Facebook murder, but that sounds terrible. So instead I say, some culling. Let's be fair that in the early days of Twitter and Facebook and all that, we kind of connected with everybody. We didn't know what we were doing. And so I go back in there and I look and see whoever I connect with. They don't have a photograph. They haven't updated anything. They're not someone I recognize anymore. I start unconnecting with them or removing the connection, and no one ever notices because some people are connected to so many folks. So I always try to leave a little gap of a few, a few dozen slots that I can put in people I want to connect to. And one thing we should comment on is that yesterday LinkedIn was trending worldwide. I don't know if the two of you caught that on Twitter. And the reason was that somebody went in to complain about LinkedIn and saying, oh, I don't get anything out of it. I've gotten 5 jobs out of Twitter, but 0 jobs out of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is filled with people trying to offer you stuff you don't want and connections you don't need, etc. And there is some validity to that. But at the same time, there's also a confirmation bias, right? These are people who love Twitter, so they're going to always say Twitter is better than the other platforms. LinkedIn, I believe, is the most underappreciated of all the platforms. There's so much potential, and I don't think everybody uses it well, and that's why we're here, and that's why we want to teach this to people. And so I think if you follow the suggestions given by Dorie and Will and me, you will pick up some tips. And remember, this is all recorded and it will be live on these platforms as soon as we're off the air. So you can rewatch this or share it with your friends. It's also on my YouTube archive. So you can just go to SreeNet and find it there. We have about 20 minutes left. And I know Will wanted me to talk a little bit about content strategy. Are we ready for that? We just wanted to see if there are any comments that came in that we should respond to. There's Haney says, I received tons of connects requests from digital marketers, but their own outreach seems clumsy to me and won't appeal to my professional audience. Your thoughts? I think we've answered it for the most part, but really think about how you are being represented on any platform where you are reaching out, right? Like this is about you, and people are judging you every second of the day as they are looking at you. And Tammy says, a good favor request should include observation and an out. Love that. And that was from Dorie and from Will. So great suggestions there. And we want to also thank our friend Stefan Kaplan on the DIGIMENTORS team for stepping in and running this platform here. It's called StreamYard. And this is what I use for all my shows. I do a daily program. I do a weekly program. All of it we run on StreamYard because you can do these one shots. Let's have our friend Stefan show us some of the magic here. He's going to do a 3-shot of us like this, and then he can do one where we're sliced vertically. He can do a close-up, as you can see, of Will. Look how good that looks. And then he can bring us a 1-shot. He can do a 3-shot like this, right? So this is the power of StreamYard, and I recommend it to everybody. I make no money from it. I make my business of virtual events runs on this, so I make money from it, but I also pay them for it. I don't have an endorsement deal or anything from them, unlike the cats in Dorie's house, who are much more popular. So let's talk about content. There was a question about the new open to work feature. So I'm going to show you my LinkedIn and just talk about that for a couple of minutes, and then answer the question about this. So let's go to my LinkedIn. It's ready to roll, Stefan, so you can show us my LinkedIn. And the first thing I want to say about it is that you can see I followed Will's advice. Have a good photo and have that background, that profile header really filled out nicely. I teach at Stony Brook, so I have that. This is the closest I'll get to a football field or a football team, so I like having that there. The question from our audience member was, what about this new open to work frame that they're offering for free on LinkedIn? I love it. I am using it. It's not like I'm open to work. I'm open to consulting gigs. It didn't have that, so this is good enough. It's been a great icebreaker. People are asking me, what is that? What do you offer? How does that work? What does that mean? So a chance to teach people, and I don't know if Will or Dorie have a thought on that. It's just a way of signaling the kind of work that you do. So let me go down and show you some of the other things that I like to think about, and I tell people when you talk about your work and everything, don't forget the new featured section. You saw that Will is using it really well, and this is what you have here. So you have to kind of activate the featured section, and once you activate it, you have total control over what people see. And so when I do that, you can see all the things that are important to me are here. And a fun tip, I took one of my best recommendations from the great Walt Mossberg, and I stuck it in here as well. So that redundancy, because if you're lucky enough to have a lot of recommendations, the best ones will get lost. So I just cut and pasted it into here. Walt is, as many of you know, one of the greatest, the greatest tech reporter of our generation, of our time. And for him to say these lovely things, it gets lost among all the beautiful other things that I get. So I highlighted it here. So think of it as a place where the content strategy is you. What is the content that you want to share, and how do you want people to find it? So that's one of the things. The second is that think about where you are posting with your activities. You have multiple ways to post. You have, you can do, if you have LinkedIn Live, which is not available to everybody yet, but once you have it, you can use that. You have articles and you have posts. And one of the odd things is that you may get more, you likely get more viewers for the posts than you will for the articles. So posts are like status updates, and articles are more like Medium posts or blog posts. And you can see I haven't done one since December 8th on the article side, but the posts I do almost every day. So you have to find that balance, and that's because I find I get more traction on my posts. So what is the solution that I got from my friend Andrew Seaman, who is one of the top people in editorial there? He said, take your article and make a post out of that, meaning post it into your own network. And that's a way to get a lot of attention to your posts as well. So one way to think about, people always ask me, what should I be posting? Look at the delay here. I think it feels like it's about 5-10 seconds or so. I tell people when they ask, what should I post? I don't know what to post. I say Facebook and Instagram are for showing off your life and the fabulous life you live. Even if it's not that fabulous, you make it look fabulous on Instagram and TikTok and this and that. But over here, show off your expertise on LinkedIn. Make LinkedIn matter, because you're showing off your expertise, show off your knowledge. People respond to that. And you can, of course, occasionally post the fancy cocktail you're having, but just think about the audience and how do you want to appear to them? And this is what LinkedIn now allows you to do. Twitter, the same thing. Show off your expertise above everything else, and have a content strategy. Post on a regular basis, whether it's twice a week, once a week. The biggest mistake, I think, and I'll turn it over to Will and Dorie after this, is to my feeling what the biggest mistake people make about LinkedIn is it's a job hunting tool, and it is a career management tool. I believe every freshman in high school needs to have an account and grow it with them as their life goes on. And all of us should be doing it as well. A life management tool. We all need to use it better. Dorie and Will are amongst the best in the world to use it. I preach it. I used to be, by the way, Dorie, the #1 fan of LinkedIn in the world. Now I'm not even the #1 Indian fan of LinkedIn in the world, because, as you know, Satya Nadella spent $26 billion on it. So he has to qualify as the #1 fan and #1 Indian fan. I can settle for #2 Indian American fan of LinkedIn. Over to you, Will.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sree. That was awesome. I have a few responses to that. And if you've just joined, please go ahead and comment where you are listening from. We'd love to hear what metro area you're near, and or any questions that you have. So go ahead and throw those in the comments. I have some reactions, Sree. Love all your points. One is I want to give a shout out to a really fantastic podcast called LinkedIn Informed. So it's one word. It's like LinkedIn Informed. LinkedIn Informed. Host is Mark Williams, and I have learned a tremendous amount of that about LinkedIn from that show. You think, how could you have 250 plus episodes just on LinkedIn? Every episode is great. One thing I've learned from Mark is in terms of responding to posts, Mark recommends against sharing a post. So you have 3 choices when you want to engage with someone else's post. You can share it, you can comment on it, or you can like it or give it one of those other emojis, right? Don't share it. Just don't ever do that. what sharing does is it breaks the chain, right? So if you see a post you like and then you share it to your timeline, you're actually breaking the comment chain. So if people now comment on your reshare of it, the original author won't see those and the original commenters won't see those. So you just break the comments apart. So it's a terrible thing. You should just never, ever use that button. Likes are fine, but they don't really help you that much, and they don't help the poster that much either. So if you just like a post, then the author is not really going to see your name, and the other people looking at that post won't see your name. If you really want to help the person who posts, put a comment down, preferably an insightful one, not just like, yeah, great post, but ask a question, right? Ask a question. You don't even have to have a great insight to add. Just ask a question. If someone says, oh, it was so great to be at this seminar, well, what were some key takeaways you could ask, right? So ask a question or respond to it. Then their followers are going to see your comment. And I've found that you're actually much more likely to get views of your profile when you're commenting on other people's posts. Because when you post, your own followers see it primarily. But if you comment on someone else's stuff, then their followers are going to see your post and they might check out your profile. So Mark's rule is actually to comment 3 to 5 times for every post that you do. And then a couple ideas around posts. They don't have to be these genius, long, thought out things. Some people have asked in the comments here about what to post if you don't have a lot of time. There's several things that you can do. One is a personal story. So it could be your own personal story or something that you're sharing. I just posted one about an exec that I spoke to who had voluntarily agreed to give up his job to protect the jobs of 3 or 4 of his direct reports. And that one got like 20,000 views. A short personal story, note on that. So personal stories. Number 2 would be something that's observational or debatable. Like, hey, here's an observation. Number 3 would be asking a question to the LinkedIn universe. And encouraging people to engage. And finally, just sharing something useful. Like, wow, I just learned that Google Calendar has these shortcuts that I never knew about. Here they are. You know, some people out there might appreciate those. So those are some reactions. And then finally, as you're thinking about building relationships on LinkedIn, think about not as, oh, I want to connect and then sell. Social selling is not about selling. It's about building 5-decade relationships. So take a 5-decade time horizon to approaching LinkedIn. Don't just connect with someone and then spam them, right? So think about, do I want to be connected with this person over the long term? So those are some reactions to Sree. I love your comments. Dorie, do you have suggestions or reactions to Sree's point about posting and content strategy?
Well, I think that you guys are raising some fantastic points. And ultimately, when it comes to connecting with new people, with people that you don't already have relationships with, I think one of the most important ways that we can be long-term thinkers about this process is to really ask ourselves, what can we do to make ourselves interesting to that person? There was a question which I thought was very good. What is a good approach for getting a call or meeting with a senior executive to share how I can help them grow their sales? Breaking into new clients as an independent consultant is extremely difficult, which of course you're exactly right. I think the obvious thing that most people do, and it is the wrong move, is to, and I get messages like this all the time, is people write and they say, "Hello, Dorie, I would like to have a call with you about how you can increase your sales." And I'm like, who the F are you? Like what? Why would I want to do that? And why would I imagine that you can teach me how to do that? You know, like everybody's skeptical, and because so many people are doing it because it's the easy thing and it's the obvious thing. And so ultimately, what we want to do is figure out how to use social media to turn the tables so that the other person is genuinely interested in talking to us. And it even, so social proof matters a lot, but also it really is a question of pacing, right? Because even if you leverage social proof, even if I get a message from somebody who says, oh, well, I have worked for this company and this company and this company, and they're all companies I've heard of, and I've helped them increase their sales, I'd like to help you do that. And of course, you can pay me. That's not a great message either, because even if you're coming in with a lot of social proof, it's hitting people out of context and hitting them too hard and too fast. I think that what Sree was saying, which is really valuable, is that if you are going immediately to the sales or the sales call on social media with no prior context, it's usually not the right move. So what social media is great about is it helps you warm up the lead in the first place so that you actually can have the context to get to that point organically, where the person is interested enough that they're actually like, oh, please, could you tell me about how you might help me? That's the great scenario. And or it keeps a sort of dormant tie warm, because they keep seeing your stuff over time, and so they don't forget you. And then when they actually have a need, they might not have had a need before, but when they do have a need, you are going to be top of mind in that context.
Yeah.
One thing I will just add is that these are great tips, and remember, these are guidelines. Doesn't mean you should. So somebody was very kind and said, I will never share again. I mean, that's not what Will is saying, right? You've got to find out what makes sense for you, what you're trying to do, and make it work for you. In terms of social selling versus selling, it's selling. You wouldn't, the first time you meet someone in a cocktail party, you don't just run up to them and say, hire me, or
right.
Anyway, right? This is not like standing on the side of the street and doing Greenpeace signatures. That's not what we're talking about, right? There's a reason why only some people respond well to that. Instead, think about making that connection, making that relationship, building so that they understand who you are. And people, even of the stature of Dorie and Will, who get so many things, they want to help. I mean, it's not that they are too busy or too important. They're just overwhelmed by things. And so finding the right cadence, volume, tone of connecting is really important. And that's why I keep saying, show off your expertise. Make your content so great that if Dorie has a second and does click over and sees all this great stuff you're sharing, and also sees you on Twitter and also sees you somewhere else and says, okay, this is somebody I want to get to know, that's different from saying, please hire me now, hire me now. I like to say that if you wait too late to figure out LinkedIn, then you come across as desperate, right? And desperation does not work on LinkedIn and doesn't work on JDate or any of the LinkedIn, I mean, Harmony, eHarmony, or any of those things, OkCupid, or at least that's what I hear. I've been married for 20 years, so I don't know. But really think about making that connection, being authentic, being yourself. All three of us get an unlimited, shocking number of I can help you sell by hiring me. Like, there are other ways you could help us. Dorie might post a question, I'm traveling, when she's traveling, and say, I'm looking for any recommendations on this, or I'm helping a nonprofit, or Will may say something. Respond to that first. So they're asking, you responded. Now you have the tiniest of chits with them, right? Depending on the answer you gave. So that now they say, oh, okay, there's a helpful person. 2 months from now, you ask something, maybe they'll respond. That's how you want to do this. Let's go to some more questions. Stefan, let's see what we have. If you have not much time for content creation, what would you prioritize?
Yeah. I would prioritize, commenting on other people's stuff, right? That doesn't take a ton of time. It could be on your phone while you're standing in line. Look for something that was interesting and respond to it. And I would add that we've kind of been mostly talking about forming new relationships or reaching out to people, but the 80-20 rule applies here. So 80% of your time ought to be building existing relationships, right? With people that already know you and like you and trust you, but maybe where you're not top of mind. So, there's hundreds of people out there that are your weak ties that know you, like you, trust you, and if they knew that you were available for an opportunity, they might, reach out to you. So reaching out to those people by, following what they do, you may have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 connections on LinkedIn, but maybe there's a core network of 200 or 300 people that are your closer weak ties.
That's
They
awesome.
may not be popping up in your profile, in your feed. So go to their profiles, check out what they're doing. If they've changed jobs, reach out, send them a message like, hey, congratulations on the new role. Would love to catch up and hear about it. Those are conversations that we need to be doing with 80% of our time. So Sree, back to you.
I was going to just endorse that we have already great connections, and instead of nurturing them, it's like being a doctor, right? We have a patient in front of us, but we keep the door open and we're like grabbing random people off the street saying, come in.
Right.
When that's an awkward analogy, so I should drop it. But you understand what I'm saying. Like, we already know people. Let's talk to them. Let's deepen those connections, and of course, continue to expand our network, but deepen those connections as much as you can. And I think we'll all be successful. Please do follow Will Bachman on Twitter and at Dorie Clark on Twitter, and I'm at Sree on Twitter. I think we have time for maybe another question if it comes in. Otherwise, if there's anything Will wants to add, or Dorie, the others will do final thoughts from all of us.
Dorie?
Well, I'll just continue, Will, your excellent response to Cyril's question, which is, if you have limited time, which of course all of us do, when it comes to creating LinkedIn content, what should you prioritize? I would suggest that and it makes intuitive sense, but many of us don't think this way. It kind of took me a while to come to thinking this way. You want to prioritize creating content that telegraphs to people the kind of work that you do. Because ideally, the dream scenario, it does not usually happen like this, although every once in a while it does, is that you write an article or you create a post and you're talking about an idea for solving your ideal client's problem. And the dream scenario is that your ideal client reads it and says, that is exactly what I need. I must hire Cyril for that right this minute. And so, again, it usually doesn't happen that they do it right away. But if you keep doing it over time, creating content or giving advice that is responding to your ideal client's typical problems, it embeds in people's minds, oh, that's the kind of work that Cyril does. And so eventually, when the moment is right, or when people have seen enough of it, they will know that you are the right person to call. So it just needs to be tightly targeted so that your client, your ideal client, will remember you when the moment is right.
And before you go, Dorie, can you tell us, what are you working on? What you'll be looking for? What are the big projects on the pipeline or immediate things coming up?
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm actually working on my next book this summer, so I'm very excited. It'll be coming out from Harvard Business Review Press next fall. If you'd like to read the one that I did just before, my most recent one that has actually come out is this one. It is called Entrepreneurial You. It came out a couple of years ago from HBR Press. And since we are talking about LinkedIn, I'll just mention I do have a LinkedIn newsletter. And if anyone would like to get it, you can go to dorieclark.com/LinkedIn and you can subscribe there.
Oh, I'm going to go right now. And let's go to Will.
So one thing that I just shipped recently, which I worked on for about 10 years, was a guide to setting up your own consulting practice. So it has 90 videos. It has 30 templates you can download. So if folks are interested in that, you can go to umbrex.com. That's UMBREX.com. And there's a link, start your own firm. This summer we're offering discounts, so sort of a pay what you can. So if you want to, if you're interested in that, you can send me a message on LinkedIn if you're interested in that course. And that consolidates over 1,000 conversations I've had with independent consultants, and over 300 podcast episodes on my show Unleashed, and doing it myself for 12 years. So I've tried to consolidate all the questions I've received over the years and done my best to answer them.
That is awesome. Lots of questions still coming in. Thoughts on posting versus writing an article. We talked about that a little bit. If you can look at the recording, you'll find the answer, David, on there. Rajan says one of the most important takeaways was to consider LinkedIn as a relationship building site rather than a job search site. Thank you for that. Lots of comments still coming in. If anyone of your friends wants to join us, the URL for the event combo link is still valid. And so what I'll do is later today and maybe tomorrow also, just email everybody the videos, people who signed up late as well. We had a couple hundred people sign up, which is pretty cool. And my final thoughts for now, first is, look at Collier says Dorie Clark's newsletter is excellent. And I am the proud subscriber number 12972. So I'm proud to do my part to not just help Dorie, but to help me by getting great content. And that's the other thing I want to tell everybody. You don't have to generate all your own great content. You should try, but you can be a great pointer to other people. Like, one of the best things you can do on Twitter right now is to go on there and say, I learned about Dorie Clark's newsletter, and say DorieClark.com/LinkedIn. And suddenly you're helping so many people rather than asking for something, or, and then you also get a little tiny chit with Dorie when you do that, right? Like, that's that process of that flywheel of content. You're posting in different places and thinking through what you're posting, why you're posting, etc. I do want to let everybody know about this free Fundamentals of Social Media course that more than 4,000 people have taken, that you can find, thank you, mrac.co/SreeSocial, and Muckrack Academy put that together, and we're delighted to work with them. I have a newsletter that you can find, sreenet.substack.com, and we would love to have more folks sign up for that, and that's available easily as well. And our company, DigiMentors.group, I have no time to write a book because we're doing these virtual events. So check out DigiMentors.group, or my email address you see on the screen right there. Happy to help anyone and talk events at any time. Thank you so much to Dorie and to Will. This has been an amazing experience for me, so I'm super grateful. I know our audience is grateful as well. Please connect with them. Check out Umbrex. Check out all the books that Dorie's written, and check out her newsletter as well. And I hope we can reassemble at some point in some fashion in person and have a drink at a bar near Columbia or something. We'll do that.
Sree, thank you for organizing this, and thanks to DigiMentors for the technology to make this happen today.
Yeah, if Stefan wants to come on and just say hello, he's at Spinit Social. We want to, there he is. Wow, he came in really fast.
Behind the scenes.
I've got my blue Spider-Man shirt on.
Hey, that's great. And Stefan runs his own very cool podcast where he interviews people about photography and social. He's a former New York Times photo editor for 20 years. And he's on my team. I'm so proud to have him with us. At Spinit Social is the name of all his social platforms. So check him out on all of those. Thank you, Stefan.
It's an honor to be on here with you, Dorie and Will. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, Stefan.
All right. So shall we hit end? We'll do that. And we'll say goodbye to everybody as we say goodbye. This takes a couple of